In 1980, Shirley Muldowney won her second Winston Top Fuel crown in dramatic style at the Ontario Motor Speedway. In 1982, Shirley was again #1, capturing her third Winston title and securing her position as one of the greatest of all time. The 1987 Winston Finals was the stage as Dick LaHaye and crew chief daughter Kim bested Joe Amato for the right to wear that big #1. The late Gary Ormsby capped his career in 1989 as he also triumphed over an always tough Amato to etch his name in Winston Finals history. This morning, the Joe Amato crew knew the tension of the finals. They had to win their round 1 race to capture the championship over Kenny Bernstein. It sounded so easy, but everyone was wondering to themselves, have I done my job correctly? The trip to the staging lanes seemed like forever, but once the engine was fired and the burnout underway, the team became a cohesive unit. Confidence building by the moment. Then in a flash from yellow to green. And 4.95 seconds later, Joe Amato became the 1991 Winston Top Fuel champion.
The pressure all year has been crazy. It's been an up and down year, and we come through, and my crew came through, and for Team Valvoline to win 2 championships like this here, they just did such a good job. We had a lot of pressure and a lot of mailbox in our pit for the last month, but what can I say? 4 times I put this on a special pedestal in the world.
Joe Amato is the champ, but the excitement is only beginning here at the 27th annual running of the NHRA Winston Finals in Pomona, California. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Joel Myers, and welcome to the Los Angeles County Fairgrounds. For the second time, and only the second time in the 15-year history of the Winston Drag Racing Series, all 3 division champions from last year have repeated once again this season. In the Top Fuel, Joe Amato, and the Pro Stocks, Darrell Alderman, and John Force in the funny cars. Even though all 3 divisions have been wrapped up, there is still a great deal at stake. And with more on that story, let's check in with Steve Evans.
Well, Joel, you're right. Kenny Bernstein's title hopes have been dashed, but he's not exactly having a bad weekend. Earlier today in round #1, he too advanced over a tire-smoking Eddie Hill. But more importantly to Bernstein's banker, yesterday, Kenny, you won $50,000 in the special Budweiser Classic competition, defeating Don Prudhomme in that final round.
Well, it was a great day, and we're glad for Budweiser we're sponsored by them and to win their event. It meant a lot to us. Wasn't a picture-perfect day for us. We didn't blister them on the racetrack, but some days that's what it takes to win races, just getting from one end to the other.
You could make a bit of drag racing history today, too.
Well, maybe so. We've won 6 events this year. We're tied with some really big names in that arena. If we win this one, it'll be the 7th, and we'll be the only Top Fuel car to have accomplished that 7 times in one NHRA Winston season.
Pick up the pace.
We're trying hard.
You know, folks, surprisingly, top speed of this event is not held by a Top Fuel dragster, as you might expect, but rather by a funny car. Here is Big Daddy Don Garlitz.
Steve, I'm standing here in the pits of the world's fastest funny car, Roland Leong's Hawaiian Punch, driven by Mr. Jim White. They hold the official top speed of this meet and also is a new national record, 291.82. Faster even than the Fuel dragsters. Now, since you saw this car win at Indianapolis on NBC Sports World, it has reset that national record 4 times. Now, that's the good news. The bad news, Roland Leong does not have sponsorship for 1992, and Wes Zerny, the man who is credited with those trick cylinder heads, if that's the secret, he is leaving the team and going to Kenny Bernstein.
So you can bet that this team wants to make a point and dominate today, just like they have the last half of the season.
So we are ready for round 2 of the Top Fuels, the kid against the veteran, 26-year-old Pat Austin and 50-year-old Don the Snake Prudhomme.
And when Don Prudhomme won his first ever NHRA title on this very asphalt 25 years ago, Pat Austin was 1 year of age. Don Prudhomme qualified #1 here, picked up a bonus $4,000 for his 4.93 second run. It was this man, Pat Austin, who qualified in the #9 spot and upset Frank Hawley in the Darrell Gwynn car earlier today. Let's remember, qualifying was held on a very cool, cloudy day. Right now for eliminations, it is hot. The sun is out beating down on this racetrack. It's a totally different arena. Don Prudhomme loses traction. Prudhomme smokes the tire, shuts it off. Pat Austin, a very safe 5.05 second elapsed time for the quarter mile. A top speed at the finish line of 285 miles per hour.
Perdome's car obviously set up for the cool racetrack. Afraid to take power out. He was facing a tough customer, Pat Austin. Perdome's season is finished.
Now, Big Daddy, we continue with round number 2, and a young man from Anaheim, Corey McClenathan, going up against the season-long champion, Joe Amato.
And there's concern in the eyes of Amato, and rightfully so. There is a problem behind him with the engine in that car, Don Garland.
Well, you know, Steve, they've had problems all weekend with the fuel system, the pumps, the lines, air bubbles. I suspect that something like that has happened now, and Joe Amato cannot get the engine started.
They have removed the starter. Corey McClenathan will have a bye run. We saw crew chief Tim Richards signal to the starter buster couch, let him go. We're done.
You can see the frustration of the team as they cover the engine. Imagine a 495 car, the quickest car in the event today, and they're out of the race. They can't even get to the starting line.
But what a break for rookie Southern California driver Corey McClenathan. He is running the 4s, but here qualified at 5 seconds flat and beat the always tough Connie Coletta in round number 1. Now, Corey could take it easy and save his parts and equipment. Nobody does that anymore. And he bangs the supercharger right off of the starting line. It's a good thing he was on a single run. He'll advance to the final 4, but that crew will have a lot of work to do. Oh, Donnie's waving his hands. What's going on?
Well, the engine is still running. He's actually trying to stop the car. He cannot stop the car. Evidently, the blower lifted off the manifold. The engine is sucking enough air and fuel to run maybe, 80, 90 miles an hour. Who knows? He has got some problems, Steve.
He is picking up speed. Even though the parachutes are out, he is going into the sand trap. Oh, my. A disaster for Corey McClenathan. We can only hope that he is okay. NHRA safety safari already rolling to the scene. He did what any driver should do, Don. He took it into the sand trap. That's why it's there.
That's why he was waving his arm so that nobody would pull in front of him. He knew he could not stop the car.
And great news, you can see Corey McClenathan of Anaheim, nearby Anaheim, out and okay.
Well, the incident that happened 3/4 of a mile away started before the rear wheels even crossed the starting line, Don.
You can see the fuel come out of the rear pipe as Corey McClenathan must have felt the car lose traction slightly, backpedaled the car, and of course that blew the blower. The blower lifted off the manifold, causing the engine to run away. He could not stop the car even though the butterflies were shut. He ended up into the fence, and of course that's the fuel tank exploding.
Well, Corey, you knew you had a runaway car before any of us did.
Yeah, I mean, in that case, I didn't know what to do. I couldn't unstick the throttle. I pulled the parachutes. I did everything that they give us for safety-wise to stop the car, other than using my feet. You know, I didn't know. There wasn't a dang thing I could do. I didn't want to go through the parking lot. It might hurt somebody else. I had to do what they make these things for, drive it right through the sand.
You did a fine job.
Thank you very much.
Fortunately, Corey McClenathan, okay. The same cannot be said, though, for that $70,000 top fueler. It's a total loss, and the day is over now for Corey McClenathan. We'll come right back to Pomona, California, as we continue with round 2 in the top fuel division. Back once again to Pomona, California. We're in the pit area right now. The funny car champion, the season-long champion, John Force. He's already wrapped things up, but he still has a big race coming up in round 2 of the funny cars against Jim Murphy. We return now to round 2 of the top fuels, and it's Laurie Johns going up against Kenny Bernstein.
Don't you know, Kenny Bernstein wishes Joe Amato had had his problem 1 round earlier. Kenny's title hopes might still be alive. As it is, he's up against a young lady from Corpus Christi, Texas, who has beaten him consistently in the early rounds all season long. Kenny Bernstein has lane choice, has selected the 4 lane, and I think you'll see that be the case all day long. Laurie Johns, though, has a much quicker elapsed time for qualifying, a 4.98-second elapsed time than Bernstein. Big Daddy, they cannot back up Laurie's car.
It seems that the engine is running a little bit on the fast side. That locks up the clutch, and if you can't get the clutch to be free, you can't get it in reverse. She's going to go down the racetrack and give Kenny a single.
So Kenny Bernstein will have a bye run, go directly to the final 4 as the weirdness continues here in Pomona.
And Steve, you're right. Weird is the word for it, because now, with a solo run for Kenny Bernstein, Laurie Johns is gone. Well, Corey McClenathan is also gone. He was supposed to match up with McClenathan in the semifinals, so now it's a solo run in the semis. Kenny Bernstein's locked up. He's already on his way to the finals.
But I don't think he's going to be real happy with this run. The car not performing as well as it should at 514 at 285 miles per hour. Let's go to Don Garlitz on the starting line.
I'll tell you what, A famous guy, Raymond Beadle, once said, "I'd rather be lucky than fast." And I'll tell you what, I'm going with Bernstein today.
Yeah, well, you know, Don, we've been lucky, but in fact, I'm embarrassed to keep dragging this thing up here, considering how slow we're running, but we'll take it.
You bet. This is drag racing, brother.
There's Boston Red Sox slugger Jack Clark close to his car, run as usual by Tom the Mongoose McEwen, who you might remember won the Summer Nationals right here on Sports World. He's going up against Cruz Pedregon in round 2, Steve.
And Cruz Pedregon, in his rookie season as a top fuel driver, lots and lots of experience in the sportsman ranks. Tom McEwen, well, he's been around this sport since they laid the first strip of asphalt, I think. But both of these are quality cars. This has all the earmarks of being one of the better races of the day if they can both get traction. I don't think I have to tell you who had lane choice. Pedregon over on that far side.
Well, Steve, in my opinion, it remains to be seen if that far side is in fact better. We have not seen a good run out of it yet today.
Well, that man we just saw, Larry Minor, that owns a Pedregon car, he certainly hopes they have made the right decision. Historically, the left or 4 lane has been the better one here at Pomona. Now, Cruz Pedregon qualified number 4, beat Jim Head in round number 1. Tom McEwen qualified number 5 and defeated Doug Herbert in round number 1. But it was Cruz Pedregon with a quicker ET of the 2 earlier today in round 1 that has given him lane choice. Jack Clark studying those tires, studying the racing surface. There's a concrete launch pad here at Pomona, but it's one of the shortest ones on the circuit. As soon as this race is over, NHRA is going to dig it up and extend it 330 feet down the track. Should make a big difference for the Winter Nationals coming up next February. Right now, Pedregon McEwen, the blue car Pedregon. On your left, Tom McEwen. Now on the near side. Raw fuel out of the pipes. A good lead. A terrific race, the best of the day. But it's Tom McEwen at 5:10, 282 miles per hour. To Pedregon's close, 5:16, 279 miles per hour. And as we look again, I think, Don, we'll see both cars had very loose clutches, scared to death of smoking the tires.
Yes, Steve, both teams very conservative in the clutch management division, afraid of that hot asphalt, that sun beating down. Cruz Pedregon's performance fell off dramatically from round 1, and that's what cost him the race, opened the door for McEwen to go to the semifinals.
So the 54-year-old Tom the Mongoose McEwen moves on to the semifinals. He'll be going up against 26-year-old Pat Austin. And in the other semifinal pairing, it would have been Corey McClenathan against Kenny Bernstein, but McClenathan's car a total loss. So Bernstein has a solo run. Steve?
Well, Tom McEwen, a 5:10. Better or worse than maybe you thought?
No, I'm happy with that, the way the track is. I think that you got to race real smart out here today, because this track and these cars that are capable of running in the 4s like this car's got a lot of power, and we've got it really back down, and I've got to be on the line and good on the starting line, and I'm happy with that.
Without lane choice, I think Austin is going to put you right back in that same lane.
That's fine. That's fine. He's still got to beat us.
So the Mongoose on his way to the semifinals and getting ready for the second round of the funny cars. Now we're back in the pit area with John Force all ready to go. He's already wrapped up the season-long series, but he wants that win in the next round against Jim Murphy. We moved the funny cars right now, and it is round number 2. And our first matchup now is Jim White against Johnny West.
And this huge crowd here at Pomona looking forward to seeing the world's fastest funny car, the 291-mile-per-hour machine driven by Jim White on the far side. They may be a little bit disappointed, Don Garlitz, since the sun came out and the track is heated up. This car has not achieved those kind of numbers.
Well, they've got a definite problem, Steve. The cylinder heads and the power that engine makes to make the car go 291 miles an hour, they've got to be very careful with how they use it on this track.
Well, Sports World viewers are well aware of Johnny West and the tremendous accident he had just 2 Summer Nationals ago. We saw it right here on NBC. In the final round against Chuck Eschels out in New Jersey, Johnny West hit the guardrail, was knocked unconscious, went all the way to the end of the racetrack, had a horrendous crash, and he is back. This is only his second race back with the car he built himself. Jim White, surprisingly, was not the number 1 qualifier. Had top speed, though. Qualified number 4 and beat Ron Sutherland in round number 1. There you can see how narrow the groove on this racetrack is. That shiny part, you don't want to get out there.
That's exactly right. There is not enough traction to hold these 5,000 horsepower engines when you get out of that real black area, Steve.
All right. Taking command is White in the 4 lane, and he daylights Johnny West. A 5:37. That's slow for that car, but the speed is still pretty impressive. 283 miles an hour. Don?
Well, it slowed down just a little bit, Roland. You being cautious?
Well, we know how it was like 2 days ago. We smoked the tires. Both runs were here yesterday, so yeah, we know the track ain't real good right now. So we're trying to be a little cautious, get through these next 2 rounds and see what happens.
I think that's smart.
Thank you.
So Jim White is on his way to the semifinals. And we go back to the pit area now. Darrell Alderman, as Alderman gets ready for his semifinal matchup with Larry Morgan. But when we come back, it's the funny cars again in round number 2, as we'll see John Force for the first time this afternoon. Magnificent afternoon in Southern California. There's almost 50,000 on hand for the NHRA Winston Finals. Let's get together now with Steve Evans and a gentleman who's $150,000 richer.
Even in defeat, the fans have mobbed the Amato pits for autographs. Joe is happy to oblige. You know, you wanted to put the cherry on top of the sundae.
Yeah, we were looking for the icing on the cake, but it wasn't meant to be. The fuel pump drive seized up and it wouldn't start, you know. What can I say?
Well, disappointment, obviously.
Yeah, you always like when you're in the race, you know, that's what makes you a racer. You want to win every race, and the championship won, and we still wanted to go out with a bang.
Joe Amato's season may be over, but he has surpassed the likes of Don Garlits and Shirley Muldowney in the top fuel ranks. Last year, he expressed his feelings when he won his 3rd.
That puts me in a special class to be with Don Garlits, Shirley Muldowney. I can't even say my name. No, Joe Amato, a 3-time world champion.
In 1984, only his 3rd year in top fuel, Joe won his first Winston championship, and so dominated the season that he had the title clinched at the U.S. Nationals Labor Day weekend. In 1988, defending champ Dick LaHaye could not repeat. And even though Darrell Gwynn won 6 national events, it was not enough against a very consistent Amato. And Joe had Winston title number 2. In 1990, the championship came down to the final round of the last race of the season. And this red light by Gary Ormsby sealed title number 3, tying Don Garlits and Shirley Muldowney. And today, the win earlier in round 1 ended Kenny Bernstein's challenge and put Joe in a league that will be hard for anyone else to join. Joe Amato, the 1991 and 4-time Winston Top Fuel champion.
We continue now with round 2 of the funny car division. John Force and Jim Murphy, and Force will have the lane choice.
Dick Daddy, when I was talking to Joe, I told him you might return to the cockpit next year, and he just couldn't wait. He said to use you up.
That's what he told me over the phone. He says he couldn't wait for me to return so he could whip my you-know-what.
You are coming back.
I'm going to run a limited schedule in 1992.
Look forward to it. Well, John Force, even though he's won the championship, is possessed by the performance of Jim White's car. That's all he can talk about. His crew chief, Austin Coyle, out in front of the car, keeps saying, John, put that out of your mind. Let's just win this race. Another 30 grand.
You know, Steve, on a normal day, Force wouldn't even be hardly concerned about Murphy in the other lane. But today, the way the track is responding, every car you race is a potential winner.
Now, this is standard operating procedure on the John Force crew. They lift that body, check a few things, connect another magneto, and Jim Murphy apparently is adopting that same pattern. Murphy, who qualified in number 14 spot, upset Chuck Etchels in round number 1, and it was Force topping Tom Hoover in the earlier stanza with a 5:32, and that's pretty darn good on this racetrack today.
John Force certainly has to be concerned at this point. He has not seen a win come out of the far lane yet today.
Staged and ready. You're riding along with John Force. He'll pull almost 5 G's off the starting line. He doesn't see Murphy. That's because Murphy is a car length behind. John Force to the final board of 540, 275 miles per hour to Murphy's game, 546. Again, Don Garlits back at the starting line.
Well, everybody seems to be slowing down just about the same.
Well, we're kind of afraid of the racetrack, and it gets hotter and hotter. By the next round, perhaps the sun will start going down a little bit, and we can step up the pace.
So cautious optimism from Austin Coyle, the crew chief for John Force's car. And we continue with round 2 of the funny cars. This matchup, Al Hoffman and Del Worsham.
Del Worsham debuted in a funny car, the only kind of car he has ever driven 1 year ago, right here on NBC Sports World. Since then, he has gone on to win 2 NHRA national events, and at the Champions Banquet, will collect a $10,000 bonus as Rookie of the Year.
And on the other side, Al Hoffman had clutch problems in round 1, but they think they have that taken care of. Well, at the other end, we understand now John Force may have some problems to contend with. Steve?
Anytime you see an oil slick like this under one of these motors, there's thousands of dollars in damage. It means a connecting rod is broken. John, you did this in qualifying, and it continues today.
Yeah, well, I told Coyle we got to, after that Hawaiian punch run all them 400 miles an hour, we had to come back with some, I said, just get rid of all this stuff. Well, he is getting rid of it today. I am giving all that Winston money back.
You got more motive.
We got more money.
More money and plenty of speed to burn as well with John Force. Nice to know he's always so calm at the end of a race. And at the opposite end, well, Al Hoffman's in good hands. His wife Helen backing him into position.
And a happy team they are. They won the last event on the NHRA circuit 3 weeks ago in Dallas, but on the best drag strip in the land. But Hoffman, in qualifying here, took the #2 spot at a 5:26. He proves that he can run on either surface. His competition, Del Worsham, just lives, about 15 minutes from this racetrack. He qualified #7 at a 5:32 and took out New York's Jerry Caminito in round 1.
Del Worsham with lane choice, and once again, Worsham has gone to the far side as they're ready for staging.
This highly partisan Southern California crowd riding with the red car on the right of your screen, now in the far lane. Kids he went to school with, jam these grandstands. A brilliant start by both. Whoa, but it's the big top-end power of Al Hoffman that pays off. The best a lifetime we have seen today from a funny car at 5:29, 274 miles an hour. Worsham at a 5:35, but he was picking up the pace on the far end. A huge speed of 283 just wasn't quite enough.
And now it's the final matchup in round 2 of the funny cars, and the defending champion, the winner on this track last year, Ed McCullough, going up against Dale Pulte.
And a note of sadness here. At the Winter Nationals that began the season this year, one of the cars in the final round belonged to Joe Paisano. Joe passed away this year in the pit area of the Mile High Nationals this past July. His car is being run in his memory by Dale Pulte and his brother Frankie, maybe for the last time.
Meanwhile, back in the Jim White pit, they've had to change the engine between rounds. Not good news this late in the game, but the way they run the car with those new cylinder heads, it makes a tremendous amount of power, and it's very hard on parts. And so the Roland Leon team, they are prepared for just such a situation.
And the winner of this contest will meet Jim White in the round of 4. Ed the Ace McCullough, #2 in the world last year, #1 in qualifying here at a 5:24, beat Richard Hartman in round #1. Rumors have it Ed will be in a top fuel dragster next year, same car owner, Larry Minor. Dale Pulte will be racing McCullough. He beat the quicker Gary Bolger in round #1. Pulte, the 9th qualifier at a 5:40, but that car has been ticking up the pace with every run, unlike some of the others.
Yes, he ran a 5:31. In fact, he has lane choice, and again, he takes the far lane.
McCullough, who has won so often here on the Pomona quarter mile in the blue car. Beautiful start by both drivers. No advantage there. In the middle of the racetrack, Ed McCullough has the performance of 5:34, defeating a very close 5:38, winning speed 265 miles per hour.
Watching the start, we see that Pulte does take a very slight starting line advantage, but Ed McCullough quickly makes it up. Clutch management system's working fine. We see the black dust coming out of the cars. Black tracks following the cars going down the course. Lots of horsepower. Little fire coming out of Pulte's. He must have lost the piston, giving Ed the win.
So it is all set now for the semifinals in the funny car division. Jim White going up against Ed McCullough, who just picked up that victory. McCullough will have the lane choice. And in the second semifinal, Al Hoffman and John Force. Hoffman with the lane choice in the other semifinal. When we come back, it'll be the final 4 in the Pro Stocks. The fans love him, and with good reason. The winner once again in the season-long series, John Force in the funny car division. But he's got big problems. The smile on his face may turn to gloom soon because of the rod that went right through his engine in his last run.
That's right, and 12 quarts of oil ran underneath the car. Here is their pit area, and you can see the crew right now muscling a brand new aluminum racing engine into the frame rails of that car. They're used to this kind of work. Right now it is time for the final 4 in Pro Stock Eliminator. And even though these are normally aspirated, gasoline-burning race cars, this track is proving to be a challenge to them as well, especially Don Garlits when they shift from first to second gear.
That's right, because that's right where they go off the concrete to the asphalt.
They tend to move around. A lot of car control is necessary from these drivers, but these are 2 of the best. Jerry Ackman, who qualified #5, and so far today has beaten Paul Rebeschi and Jim Yates. And Butch Leal, Mr. Holeshot, always off the line first. He has defeated Bob Glidden and Frank Iaconio already today. That's a full day's work, huh?
I think Butch Leal is having one of his best days this year. He has not had a good season.
That's right. The driving talent has always been there, but maybe not the power. Jerry Ackman has won on this racetrack before, now based out of Newark, Ohio. In fact, both cars from the Buckeye State. RPMs come up to about 7,000. Away they go, and you can see Leal skating around. and that cost him. He tried to come back too little, too late. A 725 for Ekman at 190 miles per hour. That's a big speed on this track. So a losing 732.
Watching this replay, you'll see why they call him the hole shot king. He moves out on Ekman very nicely. But as Steve said, you can see the car skate around just a little bit, kind of gets over toward the edge of the groove, and that's all that Jerry Ekman needed to make up the difference. And as they move down track, you can see the Ekman car just slowly pulls out in front of Leo, and that's the end of Leo's racing day.
So Jerry Ekman on his way to the finals of the Pro Stock. Steve?
Jerry Ekman, don't you wish this was the beginning of the year instead of the end? A 725.
Oh, man, I sure do. We were really stumbling. We've been through a long dry spell, and what a way to finish the year, though, Steve, and come back to my home track and run so well. And this has been the side of one of my biggest wins, the Winter Nationals, and I'm just so excited.
See you in the final.
Oh, God, that sounds great. Thank you.
Let's find out who he's going to race.
A track that's been very good to Jerry Ekman and continues to be that way. And Jerry will be matching up with either Darrell Alderman, who we're looking at right now, or Larry Morgan.
Well, Larry Morgan is one driver who has proven that Darrell Alderman is not invincible. In fact, Morgan won just 3 weeks ago the Chief Nationals at the Texas Motorplex outside of Dallas. So he comes in here with a hot hand. The man from Ohio beat Mark Powick and Kenny Delco earlier today. Darrell Alderman, even though he qualified number 2 at 723, does not have the horse for this course. His Dodge Daytona is a shorter wheelbase than any other kind of pro stock, or like the Oldsmobile Larry Morgan. So he really doesn't have the kind of weight transfer. It takes a driver to shoe this machine, even though it only has to go in a straight line. Nice start. Morgan has problems. Morgan shuts it off. Darrell Alderman will go to the final round at 728. Not bad for the middle of the day. 190 miles per hour.
So we are set now for the finals in the Pro Stocks, and a couple of veterans going up against each other, Jerry Ekman and Darrell Alderman, as Ekman will have the lane choice. We move back to the pit area now. Thad Austin, he's getting ready for his semifinal matchup for the Mongoose. Tom McEwen and Jack Clark's car, and what a story he is becoming. This is only his 5th race in the Top Fuel division. He's already picked up 1 victory. Let's head down to the far end now with Steve and the winner, Darrell Alderman.
Well, Winston, champ, you have a chance to really polish off this season now.
Yeah, we'd like nothing more than to win this last race. You know, it'd be nice for the summer or the winter we're going to.
We heard Jerry Ekman with a big hoot when he heard he's got lane choice over you.
Well, I think they like the left lane anyway, so it isn't going to make any difference.
We'll see.
Well, I'll tell you, I like the near lane because that's where all the wind's been coming out today.
Including Darrell Alderman.
You bet.
We move now to the semifinals in the Top Fuel division, and it's a solo run for Kenny Bernstein.
This is a real luxury, Don Garlits. What do you think they're going to try to do here?
They're going to lean on this car because they know they're going to have a tough competitor. They're not going to be lucky and make singles all day long. Sooner or later, they're going to have to race. So they're going to get after it this time and see just what this Pomona surface will take.
And no one more interested than longtime starter Buster Cass. Kenny Bernstein stages, whoa, and instantly up in smoke as Buster reacts to, oh, man, they didn't learn a thing.
Learned absolutely nothing. Well, they learned that that combination they got in there right now is not going to win this race.
So it's back to the drawing board for Kenny Bernstein and his crew as we'll come back and we'll have one more semifinal in the Top Fuel division. Pat Austin and Tom McEwen, but right now, Ed McCullough's car being towed out as he matches up with Jim White in the next Funny Car semifinal. Against Ed McCullough, the Funny Car semifinal. We just saw that solo run for Kenny Bernstein. Let's find out more about that with Steve.
Well, with the luxury of a bye run, Kenny Bernstein and crew were able to try something, and Kenny, it didn't work.
No, we did. We pushed on it hard. Like I said, it hasn't been running on 8 cylinders for, what, a week, I don't think. That time it got on 8, and it did what we kind of thought it might once the motor came to life. So now we got some decisions to make.
And those are going to be tough decisions. They're going to have to be between Bernstein and Dale Armstrong because they do not have a decent computer tape to refer to for the entire day.
We are now ready for our second semi in the Top Fuels. Pat Austin, the car you're looking at right now, against Tom the Mongoose McEwen.
If you were to poll the pits right now, who has the best reaction time consistently in Top Fuel racing, well, the vote would be unanimous to Pat Austin. McEwen has got to leave with him to accomplish the task at hand. Couldn't do it. Austin out front. McEwen coming back. It is Pat Austin, what a drag. Identical elapsed time. 5:08 for both drivers. The difference, Pat Austin had 0.05 of a second right off the mark.
So the final is set for the Top Fuels, and it's a rematch of the U.S. Nationals that we saw right here on Sports World. Pat Austin going up against Kenny Bernstein. Back to the funny cars, the semifinal pairing of Al Hoffman and the car we're looking at right now, John Force.
And let's not forget the Force's team also had to accomplish an engine transplant, but they've done that so many times it's almost routine with them.
In this day and age, you know, Steve, an engine change isn't as serious as it used to be. With the information they have from the computers, they can put these cars right back to where they were. So I think Force will run real well.
Very exciting time right now for Pat Austin. Let's find out more with Steve.
Since Pat Austin first crawled into a Top Fuel car this past Labor Day weekend, he's taken a lot of teasing from Tom McHugh, and you were pumped up to leave on him, and you did.
Yeah, that was him and Prudhomme were my heroes when I was growing up, and to beat the Hot Wheel guys, you know, it just means something.
You probably never saw him, but you both ran 5:08.
Hey, great. That's what racing's all about. The closer the better, as long as we get there first. It's time to go get a bud.
Talking about Bernstein, of course, and Pat will have lane choice.
Pat Austin intimidated earlier in his career by those veterans he was talking about, but no longer.
The body up on Al Hoffman's car, that I don't believe is a sign of any problems. No, crew chief Tom Anderson just wanted a look. Anderson, unlike the crew chief on this car, Austin Boyle, is not full-time. He has a job in Western New York. He flies in on the weekends. He's the best addition ever to the Al Hoffman team. Bright young man, brilliant future in this sport.
Looking at the performance, Steve, you know, you just have to give it to Hoffman, but you never count John Force out.
Good lines by John Force. You're running along with him. Force up in smoke. Hoffman up in smoke. It's the driver's race. It is Hoffman's race. His wife, Helen, doesn't even know who won. There's so much tire smoke, she can't see the win light. Hoffman won it, 5:82.
Well, I guess we have to give thumbs down to the clutch management guy and thumbs up to the driver. What a job.
I'll tell you what, the driver earned his pay today, doesn't he? When you outdrive Force, you outdrive the best.
A proud crew chief Tom Anderson, and what a job of holding it together by the driver.
You bet, but it didn't start off that way. John Force took a hole shot that was brilliant, and it looked like everything was going his way. Hoffman's tire started to smoke first. He backpedaled, but then Force's tire smoked unbelievable, hiding the entire race from the fans standing on the starting line. Both cars nearly got out of the groove and on the center line, but it was Hoffman who recovered first and got to the finish line, winning the race.
Let's find out the other side with John.
Well, John Force is good a pedaler as you are on and off the throttle. My money was on you, buddy.
Let me tell you something. We were pedaling. There was smoke out the windows everywhere, and he was right out the window. I was trying to hang on to him. Good weekend. We won the championship in Castrol, Jolly Rancher, Wax Shop Hose. All the people, we gave us our best shot. Coyle gave me some muscle. I tried to control it. We did the best we could, but it was a drag race. I had a ball doing it.
Thanks for all the thrills in 91.
A lot of thrills, but a whole bunch new for 92, and let's have some of these boys, McCullough-Anderson, get some of that NHRA Winston money. They earned it.
Another great year for John Force. Disappointment, though, in the semifinal. The next funny car is semi, Ed McCullough and Jim White.
Ed McCullough needs to save his season right here in Pomona. He challenged John Force for the championship in 1990. In 1991, this Oldsmobile has gone winless. Not so the car in the near lane. They have ruled the drag racing sport since the Labor Day weekend when they won the Big Bud Shootout and the U.S. Nationals at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Of course, we're talking about Jim White, but a question mark under the body in the engine compartment, Don.
It's a brand new engine. We just have to assume that it's going to be better. That's what they keep telling you back in the pits when you're talking to the crew chiefs. It's going to be better. We're putting a fresh piece in. Well, let's see.
McCullough with the lead. White does not have the big speed to come back with. It is Ed McCullough going to the final round with a very nice 5:31, 271 miles per hour. Let's go to Don with his crew chief.
Well, it just goes to show you what being calm, cool, and collected and not getting nervous can do.
I wasn't nervous, believe me. It looks like we, made the right moves. It's getting a little better progressively, but I think the track's tightening up. The sun's getting long now, so I think we're in better shape. I think it'll be a real good final.
And the final is set in the funny cars now. It'll be Al Hoffman against Ed McCullough, and McCullough will have the lane choice. Well, it's been a great year for Jim White, a sensational season. Disappointment today, though. Let's find out with Steve.
Well, the mighty Dodge just kind of nosed over.
Yeah, something broke on it. They're about 1,100 feet, maybe 1,000 feet. Something broke pretty bad in there. Anyway, we got a lot of time to fix it now.
That's right. There's rumors this team will not be together next year.
Yeah, that's true. Of course, Wes Cerny's announcement to go with Kenny Bernstein next year. Right now, Roland doesn't have a sponsor to replace the Hawaiian Punch sponsorship that he's had for 9 years. It's been a great time, but it's over. So we're still looking, we're working, and hopefully we'll have something here in February.
We wish you luck.
Thank you, Steve.
And Jim White did finish second to John Force in the season-long point standings. Well, back in the pit area of Al Hoffman, they've got problems, and that has been the story today. You win a race in funny car, it seems like all of a sudden you've got to change an engine. They're doing that right now as Hoffman faces Ed McCullough in the funny car final when we come back. One with Steve Evans and Big Daddy Don Garlitz just a moment ago. Daryl Alderman taking his car back to the pit area after picking up a victory in the semis on his way to his final round matchup for the pro stock. But we return to the pit area now, and it's Pat Austin getting his car ready along with crew chief Lee Beard. They're ready for the matchup with Kenny Bernstein in the Top Fuel Finals. But we continue with that pro stock matchup I was just talking about, Daryl Alderman and Jerry Ekman.
This is the final round for the Winston Finals. And for one of the few times this season, Daryl Alderman is a little bit of an underdog. Jerry Ekman has lane choice. His car performed better. That's the yellow Pontiac you see in the previous round. So Alderman may be in for it here. Well, the sun is starting to set. You can certainly see the lights on the Christmas tree more prominently than you could before. They're staging very carefully. Nobody playing any games. Just wanting maximum rollout from those infrared beams. Free stage. Ekman's in. Alderman's in. And Jerry Ekman red lights. A foul start for Ekman. He left too soon. You see the Pontiac out in front of Alderman. Disregard that. Alderman is the winner. Oh, Ekman is going to hate himself. A 7:27 for Alderman. Ekman was quicker with a 7:26. And Big Daddy, I got to tell you, this was not even a close red light. Watch.
No, it would seem like Ekman was thinking about something totally different. It's not like he was trying to cut the tree real close, as we can tell by his reaction time, .284. He was an hour and a half early.
Ed McCullough getting ready for his funny car final against Al Hoffman. Hoffman winning 3 weeks ago. McCullough looking for his first win of the year. Let's find out more about that last start, though. A red light for Jerry Ekman. Let's go down to the winner now with Steve, Daryl Alderman.
Here on NBC Sports, Daryl, we began the season talking to you about this hour, and here we are again to conclude it.
Yeah, I've said this many times. It's just unbelievable. We've had a hard time here today keeping the little Dodge hooked up. We've been sticking with the right-hand lane because we go left in the left-hand lane, and the traction's not as good in the right-hand lane, but we thought that would be the best for us.
Bodes well for 92.
Yeah, can't wait.
Great job.
And congratulations to Daryl Alderman and his crew, because that is a record 11th win. 11 wins in a single season for Alderman.
Yes, it is. Truly an outstanding performance. May never be equal. Al Hoffman has Tom Anderson again raised the body. This seems to be a ritual we're seeing with more and more teams, Don Garlitz.
Yes, it is, Steve, but in this particular case, I think Tom is looking at the fuel lines and everything. Remember, they just changed this engine. Now, he told me that this engine was going to be better than the other one, so we'll just have to wait and see.
10,000 collective horsepower, a reassuring A-OK sign from Helen Hoffman to her husband Al. The funny car final, the Winston Finals, the concluding race of what has been a wonderful, exciting season. Free stage, Hoffman in first, McCullough follows. They leave it at dead idle. McCullough away first. Hoffman drives around. Al Hoffman has won the Winston Finals, his second consecutive victory, 5:39 to a losing 5:54. Don Garlitz is with Tom Anderson.
Well, Tom, you were right when you said the one you were putting in there was going to be just as good as the other one, maybe a little better.
No, actually, it slowed down a little bit for this round, but that's what we kind of wanted to do. We took 0.5% out of it so we didn't smoke the tires.
Well, the air was getting heavier.
That's right. So, hey, it was our day.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, Big Daddy Ed McCullough got up the line in good shape, but then Hoffman took over.
Yes, he did. McCullough really wanted this win, so he took a nice starting line advantage. He was ready for Al Hoffman. And if something hadn't happened to his car, it's quite possibly he could have won this race. With Al Hoffman, they kind of softened the car up a little bit. I guess they were afraid he was going to spin a tire because he didn't have the performance he had earlier. But as they move down course, you can see him move around a little bit, and McCullough shuts his engine off. And that was it.
So it's a moment to savor for Helen Hoffman and the rest of the crew as they head down to the winner. And let's check in with Steve and Al Hoffman.
Well, you can tell a team has reached maturity when you can come back from an engine change like that and run a 5:39 to beat one of the best.
Yeah, it was moving around a lot. I pedaled it a couple times, and I don't know what to say. I mean, BDS and Tom Anderson, my wife Helen, and TJ Aldridge just been right there all year, and boy, this is a way to end it.
By the way, this is not fog rolling in. It's smoke and steam coming off of the motor behind you.
Yeah, she's probably a little wounded, but I ain't worried about that. I got time to fix it.
And the money to fix it, and more.
And what a way to finish the year. Money, you're right, Steve Evans. The win at Dallas and the win today in the finals at Pomona. Pat Austin getting ready to go back at the starting line of the Top Fuel Finals with his crew chief Lee Beard. He'll be matching up with the veteran Kenny Bernstein when we return. Tom Anderson, the crew chief, and Al Hoffman, the driver. They pick up a victory in Pomona, California this afternoon. And welcome back once again, Joel Myers, along with Steve Evans and Big Daddy Don Garlitz and his crowd of 50,000 plus. They've been anxious, they've been waiting, and it has finally arrived. The showdown of the Top Fuel Final, Pat Austin going up against Kenny Bernstein. The burnouts are complete, and just a few minutes ago, Steve Evans was back in the pit area, had an opportunity to talk with both teams.
Dale Armstrong, would it be fair to call this final round a kind of a Hail Mary pass for this car?
Yeah, Steve, all weekend long we haven't had the motor performing. And we finally, just in this last round, seeing we had a freebie, we traced it down to what has been causing this.
Now you have to manage it.
Yeah, and now it went completely on the other side. Now the motor's got 8 strong cylinders, and now it appears like the car is over clutch. Now we got to try and make a determination here how we're going to kill some power to make this thing get off the starting line. It's from one side of it right to the other, you know.
We'll go to work on the clutch.
Thank you.
As Pat Austin watches his great crew prepare his Top Fuel dragster to match up with Kenny Bernstein. Pat, you can't help but think back to the U.S. Nationals, your first race ever in this kind of a car. You raced Bernstein in the final. Tell us what happened.
Approaching the burnout box, that was my first race in the fuel car, and approaching the burnout box, you know, I wasn't even thinking about the burn. I was thinking about winning the race, and hit the throttle, and the tires grabbed the pavement, and I went to hit it again, trying to break them loose even harder, and it grabbed the motor and bogged the motor, and when there's no fuel pump speed and more air, you're going to have a problem. We had a big bang.
And it was driver error. You admitted it, but worse than that, you watched Bernstein smoke the tires off the starting line. You'd have beat him had he been able to stage.
That's the way it looks, unless I did something else wrong, which could have happened, but I don't look at that to happen, and it's going to be a fun race here.
There is no question that 26-year-old Pat Austin, who we're looking at right now, learned from that experience. He faces now 46-year-old Kenny Bernstein.
And Kenny Bernstein is the only driver able to match reaction times consistently with Pat Austin. Pat Austin, of course, sitting in the same dragster the late Gary Ormsby drove to the final round 1 year ago here, losing the championship to Joe Amato in one of the most emotional races ever. Pat Austin has dedicated this race to the memory of Gary Ormsby.
The question is, can Pat Austin overcome that lucky streak that Bernstein has been experiencing all day long?
Great start. And like rockets, they cross the finish line. Pat Austin, the Winston Finals winner at 5:01 to a 5:10. Let's go to Don with the winning crew chief, Lee Beard.
Well, finally, somebody broke that string of luck, and you run a good time, too.
Well, we knew that his luck couldn't last all day, or at least we were hoping that, you know. I got to tell you, we got an excellent crew here. The Austin families provided us with some terrific equipment. My guys that came from Ormsby's camp, Dana Kimmel, Brian Smith, and Dick Venables, along with Mike Austin, they did a terrific job of preparing that car today, and Pat did a super job of driving. I couldn't be happier.
He is a good little driver, isn't he?
I think he's got a great future in Top Fuel, Don.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It is safe to say Pat Austin matured beyond his years, Don.
Well, I'd certainly like to congratulate Kenny Bernstein for taking a starting line advantage over Pat Austin. I think it was the first one today. Bernstein was doing his job correctly. It's just they never got a handle on that clutch management system or the engine. You can see the power of the Austin car just moving away from Bernstein to win the race.
Pat Austin's Top Fuel career is 5 races old. He's been in 3 finals, and this, Pat, your second win. You can put that Kenny Bernstein Indy deal behind you now.
That feels great. I mean, that was a tough deal, but hey, this is for the NBC sports fans. You're hitting the big time with NHRA. Castro, Oldsmobile, and everybody involved. Walt Austin Racing. The whole crew was just fantastic this weekend.
And a great finish, almost dark. Any trouble seeing it all?
It's bad on the bone. The Christmas tree, you can chop it pretty good when it gets this dark. I was kind of scared of red lighting, but I staged real shallow, and I gave it a heck of a shot. I hope I did okay.
You chopped it just fine to a 5:01.
Far out. Drag racing.
So finally, he shows us that, yes, he is a 26-year-old. The victory in the Top Fuel final going to Pat Austin, and a well-deserved one. For Steve Evans and Don Garlitz, I'm Joel Myers. It's been a great season for the NHRA. Thanks for joining us.